This is chapter 46. It's about something that happened long before I was in Africa. I was doing a channeling with my next door neighbor, Jane Herman. She was one of the best channels that ever lived. She would just go to sleep like Edgar Casey, and I could do all kinds of neat things to her. One night, just for, I don't even know why, a voice came through and gave us the cure for AIDS, and said it was, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but that it was related to the human placenta and it was the essence of blood. Now, nobody knew the name back then. We didn't know what it meant, but it turned out to be, it meant stem cells. And I took it, and if you know me by now, I get a good idea, I'm running with it. I don't care what anybody thinks about me as long as the idea sticks. This idea stuck pretty well, and it turned out it was absolutely true, and that's what this chapter is about. So chapter 46, how the AIDS cure finally worked. In 2008 in Germany, it was reported widely by the worldwide press, and it has been reported since, and this has happened since in other venues, but it was reported widely in the worldwide press that a gay man with infectious full-blown AIDS and full-blown leukemia had consented to have his blood transfusion with fresh cord blood taken directly from a newly birthed placenta. This was exactly what I got through in the channeled information. With a specific medical purpose and singular medical intention of curing just the leukemia. In other words, they were going to take the cord blood out of the placenta, take his blood out, replace it with the cord blood. I guess the typing and all was the same. And the only purpose was to cure his leukemia. The cord blood is pure stem cells and has worked as a cure for leukemia and many other cancers for many past years. This procedure was aimed at the leukemia issue alone. Amazingly, and to the total shock and surprise of the research team of the German doctors, when his blood was checked shortly after the transfusion, to their complete surprise, it had also cured the AIDS virus in his bloodstream. He was totally AIDS-free immediately after the cord blood transfusion. They didn't take all his blood out, they just made the transfusion. It proved the exact point that I had been trumpeting to the medical community and the AIDS community and the CDC in America and the general public in America since 1987. A good friend of mine who worked for a magazine called Big Shout wrote an article. His name is Mark Nardone, and he wrote an article in this back at that time. I had met Mark many moons ago in the middle 1980s when I was channeling with Jane, and because of a surprise reading that came through one day, I began pushing stem cells as a cure for AIDS. He, like many other reporters that had busted Nixon, was everywhere talking to everyone. He was looking for actual confirmation, not just my word for it. I actually had the pizzazz to do channeling on local television on 7 Sundays in a row with only crossed fingers and pure balls, and broadcasted our channeling as Conversations in Spirit. It was a Sunday morning TV show. I did a special AIDS program on Mother's Day and had the guts to put a billboard up in the main political intersection of Delaware and Union Street. A big billboard. No wonder my friends deserted me. Yikes. I would have too. I also thought I was damn near, if not really, nuts. But I followed the urges that should be shared, and again I admit my source of information flow is unique. It started with the elderly next-door neighbor as a simple amusement in the form of reincarnation therapy through hypnosis. Then we went a step further in our experiment, and to different past life personalities and they started to come through. I wrote a book about it. Nobody liked it. Mostly everyone made fun of me. Pete Latang, a prosecutor buddy of mine, still said with a big smile it was the worst book he had ever read in his life, and it was. I agreed, and I loved the guy for being so straightforward and breaking my nuggets about it. Jane Herman was Delaware's living channel. She was a polio-disabled 70-plus-year-old lady lying on a couch under deep hypnosis. A voice always came through that was not hers, and without any personal awareness from her when she awoke. When she woke up, she never knew who came through. She'd always wake up and say, "Who came through today, Tommy?" What amazed me most was that there was, in fact, a cure for AIDS. Now, who the hell would believe a crazy thing like that? I did. Scene, public television show, live on camera. The beautiful, gentle voice from the other side is coming through Jane. She is asleep, out cold, in her only good purple dress. A voice said plainly, in the most beautiful feminine voice I ever heard, "Yes, Tommy, it is known that the essence of the cure for this disease you talk about lies within the human placenta," parentheses, stem cells. The voice didn't say stem cells. It turned out that that's what the voice was talking about. It will cure most mammalian blood-related problems as well as all cancers. I needed to show Mark some kind of related confirmation. I mean, he was a really good reporter, and he wasn't just going to take my word for it. One day, I had a really strong urge, and I went out to the University of Delaware Library. I researched a well-respected and well-known Lancet medical magazine. I wasn't quite sure exactly what I was searching for, and I spent the entire afternoon and evening leafing through past issues that were already on file, and bingo! I read the current issue that had just come out that month about proof that I needed to show Mark. I had found what I needed. There was a completely documented research article, experimental workshop, scientific study, reported, paid for, and supervised by the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, of 100 women pregnant with twins from all over the world, suffering from full-blown AIDS. Actually, 3 of them had triplets. On birthing day, 203 babies were born. 2/3 of the babies from the womb to air were totally free of AIDS. The evidence showed that the disease did not transport across the placental barrier. The only ones who were infected were the first ones through the birth canal. The research concluded that they got it from their mother through skin abrasions against the mother's bone or body tissue and subsequent mixing with the mother's blood on the way out, clearing an AIDS-free zone for the second and third births. Now, you would think that fact alone would get the attention of the American medical community at least. Nah. I was asked to serve on the Governor's Blue Ribbon Commission for AIDS. I brought it directly to them at the first meeting. They included a transcript of the TV show and the Lancet article word for word in the official report to the governor. And I sent copies of their report to the International AIDS Conference. I sent it all over the world. I hand-delivered it to people. I laid it at their doorsteps. I appealed to my personal friend, Democrat State Senator Herman Holloway, Sr., who put in a Delaware Senate resolution commanding the State Health and Social Services Department to investigate this possibility of this cure under a simple common sense theory. He may be wrong, but he may be right. And it passed unanimously. I sent it to Magic Johnson. I also sent it to a kid that I saw on national television who had contracted AIDS from a transfusion. Nada. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody seemed to give a hoot or a damn. And the easier conclusion for my friends and family, and apparently everyone else, was Tommy Little went bonkers. I was totally frustrated, broke, and depressed. I had spent all my time and money on this effort. I decided to quit. Finally, I decided it would work in a third world country if they knew about it and immediately started the process of joining World Teach so I could take copies of the Nardone article and the research with me. I showed it to the ambassador in Namibia at a private meeting. He blanched. He stuttered. He told me if I dared hint about this subject in Namibia, I was out of there. So, here I am, writing remembrances of my personal effort and chuckling like hell over the reporting of the German success story. Meanwhile, the AIDS pandemic took over the world since 1987, when I originally unearthed the potential for this cure. Now, there's not enough cord blood in the world to go around to all the infected victims. We have crossed over the critical birthing population mass. So much for AIDS education in America, and who knows, maybe I am a bit bonkers. And the next is chapter 47.